What if your parents were taken away not for a crime, but for merely existing within the United States without papers? Well, this is not fiction, it is happening right now. Stay tuned while we look at this current case because it might affect you or someone you know, so you need to be armed with the correct information. We'll be right back. Welcome back to the Next Level Life Hacks, where we take the next steps needed to go towards our financial freedom and our success. Now in today's video, we're going to be diving into the real-life situation of an Orange County couple that is being deported despite having no criminal record. They were simply doing a regular check-in and they were detained, and now they're on their way for deportation. We're going to be looking at what happened and why is it happening now after 35 years. We're also going to be looking at the ramifications for that couple and if it could have other implications for persons within the United States who, though undocumented and waiting for a process to be completed, are still being deported without even an explanation or without any recent activity that they have done. I'm also going to be giving you some other scenarios of persons who are being detained and deported despite having been in the United States for several decades, as well as how this has sparked a national conversation and a GoFundMe that has been put in place and has, up to this time of this video, has raised millions. Now let's look at the particular story in more detail. Gladys and Nelson Gonzalez, they live in the Orange County and they have been residing there from the 1980s. They raised their family, even have grandchildren to date, and built a quiet, law-abiding life. However, when they went in for their regular ICE check-in, and I'm going to be explaining what these ICE check-ins are, just in case you're not aware of what these are, they were detained, no explanation given, no prior warning, and they were booked a one-way ticket back to Colombia in a matter of weeks after being detained. Now let's break down the details of the case even further. They had no criminal history. What had happened is that in 2000, they were given the option for self-deportation, which they did not utilize. Because they did not utilize that self-deportation option, final removal proceedings were placed against them later on. Because those final deportation measures were issued against them, then there is that open threat that they could be deported at any minute without any warning. Why were they not detained from 2000? In some cases, ICE gives individuals the option to either be detained or that they can be placed into what is known as order of supervision. And this is whereby persons will report to ICE on a periodic basis, whether it be weekly, monthly, or quarterly, so that they can be accounted for and it can be ensured that they are abiding by the immigration terms that have been set against them. Now, the family said that they tried to appeal the ruling on several occasions, however, it yielded no success and the final removal orders remained in existence against them. What is further being mentioned by immigration attorneys in the case is that bad legal advice was given in the beginning, therefore further complicating their case. Now, we are not sure what that bad legal advice is. I know on a personal note that when I started my immigration proceeding for my family, we were given bad immigration advice by attorneys in the initial part that costed us timely delays and also costed us financially. So I can very well understand how this can be a factor in this case. And many times the USCIS process is an unforgiving one, whereby if it is you submitted the incorrect form or started the incorrect process, you could very well have ruined your chances even if you put in the correct process afterwards. And this is why it is important that you always get a second opinion regarding your immigration information, just to make sure that you are led down the right path. And that is also why it is important that you contact the consultation agency that we have placed in the description box below. And remember to let them know that you are a subscriber of this channel and you will be entitled to an up to 60-minute free consultation session. But let's continue. Now, unfortunately, the sad part is that, as immigration attorneys have mentioned repeatedly regarding this case, once a final removal order has been placed against you, it is almost impossible to have this reversed, even through humanitarian means, because it is often just irreversible. Now, in a legal sense, yes, the deportation is enforceable, but in terms of a humanitarian point of view, it is totally devastating for this family. Now, one might ask what has suddenly changed, why this is now enforceable after 35 years. And we very well know that it is just regarding the climate that we are currently in. There are several backlog cases in the immigration court system, and the immigration judges are being forced and pushed to close off many of those cases. And if you look at it from an efficiency background, it is surely a drain on the resources of the court system to have persons being reporting for weeks and for months or every quarter for decades, always doing that paperwork and having persons to deal with them and process them. It can be seen that it is a waste of time, or it is just a waste of resources in the immigration system. So with this current climate and with the push on for deportations and for the immigration process to be sped up, then these cases are reaching a decision faster than they usually did. What it is also showing though is that ICE is truly and in fact expanding their territory and their focus from just the illegal immigrants to anyone on the system who has had any offense or any rulings against them for deportation. What it also shows is that these routine ICE check-ins are not as routine as one might think. What it also says is that now more than ever, legal advice is critical and very important. Therefore, if you know that you have any ruling against you, it is time for you to try to rectify your case, because if it is that you go for those check-ins and there is no active legal appeal on your case or any protected status, and the last status on your case being that deportation ruling, then at any minute your check-in is not going to be as routine and you can be deported without warning or notice. Now, what does it mean for the Gonzalez family? It's a total disruption. Now you have these seniors who will be going back to Colombia who have not lived there for over 35 years, and they now have to be resettling back home. What will it mean in terms of their housing and especially their health care, as their health is now declining in the latter years? And this might be very well why they have initiated the GoFundMe, which as at this date it has raised over 80,000 US dollars or over 500 million pesos. Now this can go a very far way in them resettling back home, but it also goes to show the sympathy that is in the United States or anywhere for persons who are going through these ill-fated measures. What it however says though is that it is now time for action if it is that you are undocumented. I have said it repeatedly that now is not the time for you to be complacent in terms of your undocumented status. You need to get the proper advice and you need to put in place what it requires for you to get yourself documented. If this story moved you and you know of anyone else that it might impact, please share it with them. Also in the comment section, place what would you do if it is that your parents or grandparents were detained and deported after being here for 35 years. As usual, I appreciate the privilege of your time that you have spent here with me today. Thank you for your time and see you in the next video.